Everyone. So today I would like to explain about chapter 1, Testing, Assessing, and Teaching by Language Assessment book by Douglas Brown. So let's get started. What is a test? A test is a method of measuring a person's ability, knowledge, or performance in a given domain. A test is a first method. It is an instrument which is a set of techniques, procedures, or items that requires performance on the part of the test taker. The method must be explicit and structured, such as multiple choice questions with prescribed correct answer, a writing prompt with a scoring rubric, and many more. A test must measure general ability. A multi-skill proficiency test determines a general ability level. A test measures an individual's ability, knowledge, or performance. Testers need to understand who the test takers are. A test also measures performance, and most language tests measure one's ability to perform language, that is, to speak, write, read, or listen to a subset of language. Finally, a test measures a given domain. In the case of a proficiency, even though the actual performance on a test involves only a sampling of skills, that domain is overall proficiency, a language general competence in all skills of language. And then assessment and teaching. Assessment is an ongoing process that encompasses a much wider domain, and whenever a student responds to a question, offers a comment, or tries out a new word or structure, the teacher subconsciously makes an assessment of the student's performance. Tests then are a subset of assessment. They are certainly not the only form of assessment that a teacher can make. Tests can be useful devices, but they are only one among many procedures and tasks that teacher can ultimately use to access students. Teaching sets up the practice games of language learning, the opportunities for learners to listen, think, test tricks, set goals, and process feedback from the coach, and then recycle through the skills that they are trying to master. And then informal and formal assessment. Informal assessment can take a number of forms, starting with incidental, unplanned comments and responses, along with coaching and other impromptu feedback to the students. Examples include saying nice job, good work, did you say can or can't, or putting a smile on some homework. On the other hand, formal assessments are exercise or procedures specifically designed to tap into a storehouse of skills and knowledge. They are systematic, planned sampling techniques constructed to give teacher and students an appraisal of student achievement. And then formative and summative assessment. Another useful distinction to bear in mind the function of an assessment. How is the procedure to be used? Two functions are commonly identified in the literature, formative and summative assessment. The formative assessment is evaluating students in the process of forming their competencies and skills with the goal of helping them to continue that growth process. The key to such formation is the delivery by the teacher and internalization of appropriate feedback on performance, with an eye toward the future continuation of learning. Summative assessment aims to measure or summarize what the student has grasped and typically occurs at the end of a course or unit of instruction. A summation of what a student has learned implies looking back and taking stock of how well the student has accomplished objective, but doesn't necessarily point the way to future progress. Norm reference and criterion reference test. In norm reference test, each test taker's score is interpreted in relation to a mean or average score, median or middle score, standard deviation or extent of variation in scores, and percentile rank. The purpose in such tests is to place test takers along a mathematical continuum in rank order. And criteria reference tests, on the other hand, are designed to give test taker feedback, usually in the form of grades on specific course or lesson objective. Classroom tests involving the students in only one class and connected to a curriculum are typical of criterion reference testing. And then approaches to language testing. Uh, the first, discrete point and declarative testing. The discrete point tests are constructed on the assumption that language can be broken down into its component parts and those parts can be tested successfully. These components are the skill of listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and various units of language, of phonology, glyphology, morphology, lexicon, syntax, and discourse. Then, what does an interpretive test look like? Two types of tests have historically been claimed to be example of integrative tests. For example, cloze test and dictation. A cloze test is a reading passage in which roughly every 6 or 7 word has been deleted. Dictation is a familiar language teaching technique that evolved into a testing technique. And then communicative language testing. Communicative testing presented challenges to test designers. Test constructors began to identify the kinds of real-world tasks that language learners were called upon to perform. It was clear that the context for those tasks were extraordinarily widely varied and that the sampling of tasks for any one assessment procedure needed to be validated by what language users actually do with language. And then performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessment of language typically involves oral production, written production, open-ended responses, integrated performance, and other interactive tests. To be sure, such assessment is time-consuming and therefore expensive, but those extra efforts are paying off in the form of more direct testing because students are assessed as they perform actual or simulated real-world tasks. A characteristic of many performance-based language assessment is the presence of interactive tasks. In such cases, the assessments involve learners in actually performing the behavior that we want to measure. In interactive tasks, test takers are measured in the act of speaking, requesting, responding, or in combining listening and speaking, and in integrating reading and writing. And then current issues in classroom testing. Such efforts to improve various facets of classroom testing are accompanied by some stimulating issues, all of which are helping to shape our current understanding of effective assessment. The first, new views on intelligence. Intelligence was once viewed strictly as the ability to perform linguistic and logical mathematical problem solving. There are 5 other frames of mind in theory of multiple intelligence. There are spatial intelligence, the ability to find your way around an environment to form mental image of reality. And then musical intelligence, this is the ability to perceive and create pitch and rhythmic patterns. And then bodily kinesthetic intelligence, this is fine motor movement and athletic prowess. And the interpersonal intelligence, this is the ability to understand others and how they feel and to interact effectively with them. And the intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to understand oneself and to develop a sense of self-identity. This new conceptualization of intelligence have not been universally accepted by the academic community. Nevertheless, their intuitive appeal infused a decade of the 1019, which with a sense of both freedom and responsibility in our testing agenda. And then two caveats needs to be stated here. First, the concepts in table 1.1 represent some originalization and should therefore be considered with cautions. It is difficult, in fact, that to draw a clear line of distinction between what Armstrongs and Bailey have called traditional and alternative assessment. Second, it is obvious that the table shows a bias toward alternative assessment, and one should not be misled into thinking that everything on the left-hand side is tainted, while the list on the right-hand side offers salvations to the field of language assessment. It should be noted here that considerably more time and higher institutional budgets are required to administer and score assessments that presuppose more subjective evaluation and more individualization and more interaction in the process of offering feedback. And then we have a computer-based testing. A specific type of computer-based test, a computer adaptive test, has been available for many years but has recently gained momentum. In a computer adaptive test, each test taker receives a set of questions that meet the test specifications and that are generally appropriate for his or her performance level. Computer-based testing with or without CAT technology offers these advantages. The first, classroom-based testing, self-directed testing on various aspects of a language, such as a vocabulary, grammar, discourse, one or all the four skills, and etc. And then practice for upcoming stakes standard standardized tests, and then some individualization in the case of CATs, and then large-scale standardized tests that can be administered easily to thousands of test takers at many different stations, then scored electronically for rapid reporting or of result. And then of course, some disadvantage are present in our current prediction for predilection for computerizing testing. Among them, lack of security and the possibility of cheating are inherent in classroom-based and unsupervised computerized tests, and the occasional homegrown quizzes that appear on an official website may be mistaken for validated assessments. And then the multiple choice format preferred for most computer-based tests contains the usual potential for flawed item design. And then open-ended responses are less likely to appear because of the need for human sources with all the attendant issues of cost, reliability, and turnaround time. And the human interactive element, especially in oral production, is absent. Okay, so that's all the chapter 1. Thank you for your attention and see you.